Israel is known the world over as a defense innovator and arms supplier. Despite the country's small size, it is the 8th largest arms exporter globally. So it's no surprise that as Europe looks to rearm, Israeli defense and tech companies are sensing business opportunities ahead.
The era of the peace dividend is long gone. The security architecture that we relied on can no longer be taken for granted.
Trade and research connections between Israel and Europe are not new, with Israeli defense tech underpinning the relationship.
I would mention a long-strike artillery, precise ammunition, uncrewed systems, digital armies, communication, electric warfare spectrum. These are just an example of capabilities that we are already providing to numerous countries in Europe, and definitely based on what is happening in Ukraine and Russia, and what was demonstrated in the last year and a half in our area in the Iron Sword War, I would imagine that we will see the appetite of these solutions are continuing and expanding in Europe as well.
But with the European Union looking to invest 800 billion euros in defense spending over the next 4 years, these connections are likely to scale considerably.
If you want to set up a national security framework for your country, particularly your European country in our case, you must be doing business with Israel in order to construct the defensive approaches, the defensive domes, if you will, from missiles, from drones, from cyber attacks, from all sorts of things that help you protect your nation, help you provide national security. And you shouldn't need the push that might be coming from the Americans.
Not only are Israeli defense firms in line for additional business from Europe, but so too are tech companies, with cyber at the forefront.
The immediate effect of something like what's happening with Trump and Europe and everything, it hits the big companies. But if you follow it for a couple of months, you will see that every subcontractor that works with them is now required to do something new or something additional that it wasn't required. That is really the big wave, and it's just beginning now.
As Israeli firms increase their trade with Europe, they are likely to hire local staff, open offices, and begin exploring mergers and acquisitions, which can help with navigating Europe, which is not unified, but is rather a cluster of markets.
There are some additional challenges that relate to the European procurement processes, et cetera, in particular. The European market's smaller than the US market. The European market is highly fragmented. It's fragmented in terms of national policies. So even though the EU has announced the 800 billion euro program, individual countries are still going to make their own defense spending decisions.
Israeli technologies are often more easily integrated and have a proven track record, two factors which could prove important against competing suppliers.
Our capabilities and solutions are fielded, are operational. The Israeli Defense Forces, and not only, are using them on a daily basis. We are developing and presenting an open architecture solution, so it could be easily integrated.
Diplomatic considerations, including unease in some EU states over how Israel wages its wars, could influence expanding trade ties. But with Europe feeling increasingly isolated from the US, realpolitik may force it to turn a blind eye to such considerations. With or without such business, Israeli firms will keep developing new military technologies.
When we innovate, it's an existential requirement. If we don't innovate and we're not at the cutting edge, then we're not anymore. There's no higher motivator than that, which puts us in the front line of developing technologies.